Viva Mexico! UFC's back in Mexico City for a pretty fun card. A lot of local talent on it. Should be some bangers. And as always, plenty of money to be made. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, we got Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Kevin Borjas. So Lazy Boy is 17-2. That is 2-0 in the UFC. Borjas is 9-3. That's 0-2 in the UFC. Lazy Boy has won 7 straight fights since losing on Dana White's Contender Series. Borjas has won 3 of his last 5, but he's also lost 2 in a row. Rodriguez, just 25 years old. Borjas, 27 years old. You know, I'm riding with Lazy Boy money line here, minus 142. I just feel like he should have more ways to get it done, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. He's on a hot streak right now. He's going to have the crowd behind him. And Borjas is still winless in the UFC. He's yet to proven himself on this level. We got to ride with Rodriguez. If you guys are looking for anything else to take, how about the over 2.5 rounds? It's minus 180, so you'd have to parlay it. Lazy Boy's hit it in 3 of his last 6, and Borjas has hit it in 3 of his last 4. And if you like Rodriguez, take him by finish, plus 200. 12 of his 17 pro wins have come by finish, and Borjas has been finished twice before, including his last fight. Next fight of the night, we got David Martinez taking on Simon Oliveira. So Martinez is 11-1. This will be his UFC debut. Oliveira is 18-5. He is 0-2 in the UFC. Martinez has won 7 straight fights. Oliveira has lost 2 in a row, but he was on a 5-fight win streak before that. So Martinez, just 26 years old. Oliveira, 33 years old. So I'm going to take David Martinez money line here. It's minus 340. I'm parlaying it with Lazy Boy money line. Gets us plus 121 for that 2-legger. I just feel like if Martinez can stop the takedown here, this should be smooth sailing. He lands about 6 strikes per minute, and Oliveira is very hittable. He was outstruck in both of his UFC bouts. It's also a hometown fight for David Martinez. He'll have the crowd on his side. Seems like the UFC is also propping him up here, putting him on the main card in his UFC debut. So I like him to get it done. If you guys are looking for anything else, take how about the over 2.5? It's minus 125, so you'd have to parlay it. Martinez has hit it in 3 straight fights, though, and Oliveira has hit it in 2 of his last 3 fights. If you like David Martinez, but you want him at a cheaper price, take him by knockout, plus 150. 9 of his 11 pro wins have come by knockout, and Oliveira was just knocked out in his last fight. And last but not least, fight does not go the distance. It's minus 105, so you'd have to parlay it. But maybe if you wait a little longer, it should be plus money. Either way, 9 of Martinez's 12 pro fights have not gone the distance, and 17 of Oliveira's 23 pro fights have not gone the distance. That's 74% combined. Pretty cheap price there for something that most of their fights don't go the distance. Next fight of the night, we got Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Vince Morales. So Rosas Jr. is 10-1. That is 4-1 in the UFC. Morales is 16-9. This is his second stint in the UFC. He went 3-5 from 2018 to 2022, got cut, came back last year, and has gone 0-2 since. So he is 3-7 overall in the UFC. Rosas Jr. has won 3 straight fights. Morales has lost 2 straight, but he was on a 5-fight win streak before that. Rosas Jr. still just 20 years old. Vince Morales, 34 years old. I'm riding with Chihuahuas money line, baby, minus 275. Good stylistic matchup for him. He's taken down 4 of his 5 UFC opponents, with the lone exception being that Terrence Mitchell fight where he knocked him out in under a minute. So he didn't even have the chance to take him down. Probably would have if he did. Morales was taken down in 5 of his 7 UFC losses. Rosas also obviously very good on the ground, and Morales has been subbed before. So I just feel like this is a perfect matchup for Rosas. Should be a win whether he gets the sub or decision. We're riding with that in a parlay. I'll get to it later. Looking for anything else? How about the over 2.5? It's minus 180, so you'd have to parlay it. Rosas has hit it in 3 of his 6 Zuffa fights, being his 5 UFC fights, his lone Contender Series fight. Morales has hit it in 4 of his last 5 fights. And I mentioned Rosas Jr. by sub, plus 275. 6 of his 10 pro wins have come by sub, and Morales has been subbed twice before. And Rosas by decision, plus 105. Only 2 of his 10 pro wins have come by decision, but his last win did come by decision. And Morales has not been finished in 11 straight fights, and his last 4 losses came by decision. Next fight of the night, feels like this should be the co-main, but whatever. Kelvin Gastelum taking on Joe Pyfer. Be like Joe Pyfer. Gastelum is 19-9 with one no contest. That's 13-9 with one no contest in the UFC across welterweight and middleweight. This fight will be at middleweight, where he is 8-6 with one no contest. Pyfer 13-3. That is 4-1 in the UFC. Gastelum has lost 3 of his last 5 fights. Pyfer has won 5 of his last 6 fights. Gastelum, 33 years old. Pyfer, 28 years old. I went back and forth here on what to take. I settled on the over 1.5 rounds. It's minus 195. I'm parlaying it with Raul Rosas Jr. money line. Gets us plus 106 on that. Little risky here. Gastelum seems like a sure thing. Gastelum's hit the over 1.5 in 6 straight fights. Pyfer only hit it 3 times in 16 pro fights. It is worth noting he did go 5 rounds with Jack Hermanson 2 fights ago. So, seems like when he steps it up in competition, they tend to go long. We hope, at least. But yeah, a little risky riding with that, though. The other thing I was considering taking that I didn't, Joe Pyfer money line, minus 286. He did have that lackluster performance against Hermanson that I just mentioned, but otherwise he's looked like a freaking killer, dude. 12 of his 13 pro wins coming by finish. Also, Gastelum's lost 6 of his last 9 and hasn't been very active, only fighting 3 times in the last 4 years. Also worth noting that Gastelum's last loss came to Sean Brady, who is Pyfer's main training partner. So, there's that. Fight end by knockout is plus 150. I like that too. Only 6 of Gastelum's 19 pro wins have come by knockout, but 3 of his 8 middleweight UFC wins came by knockout, and 9 of Pyfer's 13 pro wins have come by knockout, and Pyfer's been knocked out before. Last but not least, the over 2.5 rounds, minus 110. Gastelum's hit it in 5 of his last 6 fights, but Pyfer's only hit it twice in his 16 pro fights. I said last but not least, but I also like Gastelum as a dog here, plus 250. He's lost 6 of his last 9, but 5 of those 6 were to currently ranked welterweights and middleweights. He's also fought 6 former UFC champions, which is wild for someone who was never a champion themselves. Pyfer never fought anyone in the top 15. Co-main event, we got Manuel Torres taking on Drew Dober. Torres is 15-3. That is 3-1 in the UFC. Dober is 27-14 with one no contest. That is 13-10 with one no contest in the UFC. Torres did lose his last fight, but he was on a 6-fight win streak before that. Dober has lost 3 of his last 5. Torres turns 30 this week, I believe today, actually. Dober is 36 years old. I'm riding with Manuel Torres, the birthday boy, baby. Minus 112. Gonna parlay it. I'll get to it later. Dude, he's all action. He lands over 7 strikes per minute. He'll be the younger guy here. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. Dober, 36 years old, has lost 3 of his last 4 and was finished in 2 of those losses. I feel like Torres is just going to fucking run right through him in a round, maybe 2. But anyways, looking for anything else to take. How about the over 1.5? It's plus 155. In a lightweight fight, that's kind of wild. Torres has only hit it once in 18 pro fights, which is probably why it's plus money. But Dober's hit it in 4 of his last 6 fights. Maybe worth a dabble on that. Fight does not go the distance. You definitely got to parlay this one. Minus 650. 17 of Torres' 18 pro fights have not gone the distance, and 28 of Dober's 42 pro fights have not gone the distance. That's 75% combined. Main event, Brandon Moreno taking on Steve Erceg. Moreno, 22-8-2. That is 10-5-2 in the UFC. Erceg is 12-3. That's 3-2 in the UFC. Moreno has won 3 of his last 5. Erceg has lost 2 straight, but he was on an 11-fight win streak before that. I feel like this whole main card is this guy's lost X amount in a row, but he was on a big win streak before that. Moreno, 31 years old. Erceg, 29 years old. I'm taking the over 2.5 here. It's minus 340. I'm parlaying it with Manuel Torres money line. Gets us plus 145. Moreno's hit it in 6 straight fights. Erceg's hit it in 3 of his last 5. The line is set at 4.5. So if you want a little less off the top, take the over 4.5. It's minus 210. Moreno's hit it in 6 of his 9 5-rounders in the UFC. And Erceg has hit it in the lone 5-rounder he was scheduled for in the UFC. If you like either guy, just take him by decision. Moreno by decision is plus 130. Only 6 of his 22 pro wins have come by decision, but his last win came by decision. And Erceg has lost by decision twice before, including that lone 5-rounder aforementioned before. Erceg by decision is plus 210. 4 of his 12 pro wins have come by decision, including 2 of his 3 UFC wins, and all 8 of Moreno's pro losses have come by decision. we're throwing a dabble on Steve Erceg as a dog here too. Maybe that's just the Australian in me.
I'm worth 100,000 like Woodrow. When a ball call me Wilson, going overboard at the Hilton.